The movie opens by introducing a narcotics officer named Captain Jackie Velez. She is on the phone with one of her informants, who sounds terrified and on edge, clearly sensing that something is wrong. Jackie tries to reassure her, promising that she will protect her at any cost. Once the call ends, Jackie steps out of her car. Without warning, a group of hired killers ambushes her. They attack with a clear intention of killing her, leaving her badly injured. Even while wounded, Jackie manages to return fire. In her final moments, she quickly sends a message from her phone, then tosses the device into the water to erase any trace. Seconds later, the hitmen reach her and brutally murder her where she stands. The story then cuts to the next day. We are introduced to Lieutenant Dane DeMars, who leads Jackie's unit. He is visibly shaken and enraged as he argues with his superior, struggling to cope with Jackie's sudden death. His boss informs him that a special FBI task force has been brought in and is now questioning everyone connected to the unit. The FBI believes Jackie's murder may have been an inside job, suspecting that someone from her own team may have sold her out. Soon after, FBI agent Del Byrne begins interrogating the officers. The team includes Detective Lolo Salazar, Detective Mike Rowe, and Detective Numa Baptiste. Each of them speaks highly of Jackie, describing her as a good person and admitting that her death has hit them hard. Del then turns his attention to Detective Sergeant J.D. Byrne. J.D. claims he has no idea why Jackie would have been targeted. However, Del already knows that J.D. and Jackie were romantically involved. J.D. explains that he had been spending almost every night with her during the past week. Del pushes him aggressively about the relationship, and the interrogation quickly escalates into a physical confrontation. Other officers rush in and break up the fight before it gets worse. Later, Dane's boss questions why Del and J.D. are constantly at each other's throats. Dane explains that the two men are brothers and that their long-standing rivalry is the reason their interactions always turn hostile. Not long after, J.D. storms into the restroom, clearly overwhelmed by anger and grief. Dane follows him inside, and it becomes clear that J.D. harbors deep resentment toward his brother. Both men are still reeling from Jackie's death and are determined to find whoever was responsible. Meanwhile, the FBI remains convinced that someone within the unit betrayed her. Dane tells J.D. that even their own boss seems to be in the dark about what really happened. Shortly afterward, J.D. rejoins the rest of the team, joking and making casual conversation as a way to hide what he is feeling inside. At the same time, Dane is shown holding Jackie's final message. In it, she had warned him about a house rumored to be packed with cash. Around this point, DEA agent Mateo Matty Nix arrives with his team. Matty's unit specializes in dismantling major criminal organizations, and they have a strong working relationship with JD's crew. Together, they have successfully taken down several large mafia operations in the past. Dane joins them and reveals that they've received a solid tip about a house that needs to be hit. With that information, both teams move forward with the operation. Before entering the property, Dane deliberately gives each officer a different estimate of how much money they might find inside. He tells Mike Rowe to expect around $500,000. When JD asks, Dane suggests the amount could be closer to $3 million. When Numa asks, Dane downplays it even further, estimating roughly $75,000. The team then arrives at the house where they encounter a woman named Desiree Desi Lopez Molina. She has a striking presence and is Mexican, which immediately raises suspicion as properties like this are often tied to Mexican cartels. Dane informs her that they have a warrant and the team proceeds inside. They deploy their K-9 unit, which quickly alerts them to something hidden on the upper floor. Dane questions Desi about the money, but she insists she has no idea what he's talking about. Dane and JD head upstairs, where they discover several large drums concealed out of sight. They confront Desi again and demand the truth. She explains that she lived there with her grandmother and had only returned to arrange medical treatment. Her grandmother died 3 months earlier, and Desi maintains that she knows nothing about any hidden cash. Dane remains unconvinced, believing that Desi is withholding information. She continues to deny everything. Dane and JD explained that nearly every house in the area is owned by the mafia, which is why they were confident they would find money there. From Desi's perspective, Dane and JD now look corrupt. She notices two unusual tattoos on Dane's hands and asks what they mean. Dane explains that they represent a question and an answer. When Dane and JD open one of the drums, they are stunned. Each drum holds approximately $1.4 million in cash. There are 14 drums in total, meaning the stash could be worth nearly $20 million. Dane admits that this is the biggest seizure of his entire career. According to procedure, any money recovered during a raid must be counted on site. He orders everyone to hand over their phones. The team protests, but eventually they comply. Dane brings all the drums downstairs. He assigns Lolo and Numa to count the cash while Mike Rowe is instructed to stay outside and stand guard. JD points out that it's already late and having this much money on hand makes the situation extremely dangerous. He suggests they leave immediately. Dane refuses, insisting that protocol must be followed and the money has to be counted and documented before they move. He also makes it clear that their boss is not to be informed yet. JD mentions that Jackie had told him she was expecting a major tip and this could be exactly what she meant. Dane responds coldly that it doesn't matter. Securing the scene comes first. Suddenly, Mike Rowe warns them that police vehicles have arrived outside. JD and Mike Rowe step out and are questioned by the officers about why they're there. They explain that they are conducting a raid, but the officers claim they were never notified. JD quickly realizes something is off when they recognize the cops as low-ranking officers, including one who was currently suspended. Realizing the danger, they rushed back inside. They know that if those officers learn about the cash, the situation will turn violent fast. They prepare for the worst. Everyone is ordered to arm themselves and put on bulletproof vests. Desi is tied up, furious and powerless. Outside, Mike Rowe secretly pulls out a second phone and messages his chief, telling him they've struck gold, but warning that everything is about to spin completely out of control. Dane resumes questioning Desi, pressing her harder than before. This time, she finally breaks and explains that two men had come to the house earlier and left the money behind. They told her that if anyone showed up, she should allow them to take as much cash as they wanted because the money meant nothing to them. As she speaks, Desi notices a photo displayed on Dane's phone and asks who the child is. Dane tells her it's his son. Dane and JD then run a background check on Desi, but they find no serious criminal record tied to her. Suddenly, a phone begins to ring. JD answers it. The voice on the other end warns him to take whatever money he wants and leave immediately, telling him that his life isn't worth risking over $500,000. JD immediately drags Dane into a separate room, furious. He points out that Dane originally claimed there would be $3 million, but when the call came in, the figure mentioned was only $500,000. In that moment, JD realizes Dane has been hiding something. Dane refuses to explain himself, but JD is now convinced that Dane is playing a far larger and more dangerous game. Meanwhile, Lolo and Numa continue counting the money. As they work, the temptation becomes impossible to ignore, realizing that taking even a small portion of the cash could completely change their lives. Outside, Mike Rowe contacts the chief again, urgently asking him to get there as fast as possible to secure the money. Mike Rowe goes back inside and speaks with Lolo and Numa, but they insist that everything is under control. Dane returns, and Lolo informs him that armed men will arrive within 5 minutes. Almost instantly, gunfire erupts outside. The officers fire back, and during the exchange, Numa is shot and injured. Dane and Mike Rowe chase after the attackers as they retreat. They open fire, but the gunmen manage to escape in their vehicle and vanish from the area. JD emerges holding one of the captured men and explains that he's connected to the mafia, though he claims he never fired at them. The man puts them in contact with his Mexican cartel boss over the phone. The boss tells them that the money found in the house does not belong to his organization and that they don't care about it. He explains that since Jackie's death, law enforcement has been watching them closely, but his people were not responsible for killing her. According to him, the real killer is likely someone from within their own unit. He also makes it clear that he doesn't want to escalate the situation by attacking cops, which is why he didn't send anyone. Dane and JD are left stunned by the revelation. They go back inside, and Dane tells the entire team that the money doesn't belong to the mafia, meaning no one is coming to reclaim it. Lolo immediately suggests they keep it. She proposes reporting only the amount Dane already gave the chief and splitting the rest among themselves. This sends JD into a rage. He accuses Dane of working with the gunman outside and orchestrating the entire operation to steal the money. Dane fires back, accusing JD of being the traitor since he was outside talking to a mafia contact. JD responds that even the cartel boss confirmed Jackie wasn't killed by them and that someone from their own team was responsible. He directly accuses Dane of murdering Jackie. Dane denies it, and the argument explodes into a violent fight. Mike Rowe steps in and forces them apart. Dane then orders everyone to pack up the money and get ready to leave. Mike Rowe goes into the bathroom and realizes his phone may have fallen outside earlier. Meanwhile, JD calls Maddie Nix again and demands that he come immediately. Maddie agrees. JD also explains that their vehicle tires have been slashed, so Maddie will need to bring a truck. Mike Rowe asks Desi for her phone, but it turns out Dane has it. Elsewhere, Dane arrests Mike Rowe and takes him away, determined to make sure he answers for everything he's done. Not long after, we see Lolo and Numa together, with Desi riding alongside them. Their truck is loaded with all the money. They arrive and hand over the entire amount to the authorities. The officers count the cash, and Dane and his team report the exact same figure they originally claimed. Impressed by their integrity, the officers praise Dane and his unit. Then something significant happens. The officers give Desi 20% of the recovered money. It's revealed that Desi was actually Jackie's informant, the same woman Jackie was speaking to at the very beginning of the film. After her grandmother's death, this money will help her survive. Knowing this, the entire team feels relieved and genuinely happy. Lolo and Numa head home, finally able to breathe again. JD meets with Del and thanks him for his help. For the first time in a long while, the two brothers feel good working together again. Desi approaches Dane and thanks him as well. Dane already knows that Desi will tell the truth about Mike Rowe because she's a good person. He had realized long ago that she was Jackie's informant. Desi is heartbroken over Jackie's death and admits she had no idea Jackie had been killed. Dane then explains the meaning of his tattoos. One represents a question, "Are you a good cop?" The other is the answer, "Yes." He reveals that his son asked him that question before he died and Dane had promised him that he was a good cop. That promise is what the tattoos stand for. Desi and Dane go their separate ways, and Dane advises her to stay out of trouble and live an honest life. As morning arrives, Dane and JD sit together with drinks in their hands, quietly watching the sunrise. With that calm, reflective moment, the film comes to an end.